Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's Beth Demon here once again on our Wednesday happy hour at home on behalf of the San Diego Brewers Guild. Before we get too far, let me go ahead and just pin the comment that we're doing the happy hour at home so that when people join us, they'll know what we are doing. So thank you as always for bearing with me as I take care of this one little housekeeping note so that we are not distracted before we jump into the meat of everything, because this week should be rather meaty and I appreciate everybody joining us. That we've been doing this for, a couple months now. And this format is going to be a little bit different. Sorry, there we go. Pin comment. Okay, now we've gotten that taken care of. I can maintain better eye contact. So, what a week. What a month. What a year. What a 400 years. It's been really difficult for everybody, especially the Black community. I think that I would say that goes without saying, but obviously it needs to be said. So, between that and COVID, which I don't know about you guys, it almost seems to be a little bit on the back burner, but let's make sure that we keep talking about that as well. But, stuff is starting to reopen on Friday, which I think is a little, I'm so happy for business owners and breweries and tap rooms and everybody, but, we'll see how it goes, and I hope that everybody stays healthy and safe. But obviously, COVID is just one crisis, and the one that's been simmering since our country started, and even before that, here in the United States is finally having its reckoning. So in honor of that, the Brewers Guild Inclusion Committee met virtually last week, and the Brewers Guild itself decided that we took off last week in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests against systemic oppression and police brutality in the United States. So this week we wanted to convene and talk about what San Diego is doing and what we can do to help promote justice, equity, inclusion, and diversity within the beer community itself. So a little backstory. The committee started kind of talking a little bit last year, and I think we officially launched at the beginning of this year. We did put together a mission statement, and I'll just read it right now, and we'll probably get into it a little bit more later. But the Inclusion Committee of the San Diego Brewers Guild aims to be a resource for guild, brewery, and affiliate members looking to implement diverse, inclusive, and equitable practices into their business practices, to spearhead outreach in communities currently underrepresented in craft beer, and to educate craft beer consumers on how to be agents of change in the community. So that should give you a little bit of an idea of what the goal is for the Inclusion Committee as a subcommittee of the San Diego Brewers Guild as a whole. So in honor of that conversation that we wanted to have this week, two of this week's guests, are, along with myself, are members of that inclusion committee. So the first one is Paige McWay-Acers, who's the executive director of the San Diego Brewers Guild. And we'll follow her up with Virginia Morrison, who's the co-founder of Second Chance Beer Company. And she's also the vice president of the Guild at large and the committee chair of the inclusion committee. So we'll be checking in with both of them, starting with Paige, to talk about the Guild's mission in general, how we can best support the beer community at large, and then we'll dial it into the inclusion committee a little bit more specifically with Virginia to find out about what the committee is doing both now as well as future plans to improve diversity and equity in the San Diego craft beer scene. So we're going to wrap things up with our final guest, who is a longtime beer advocate, a writer, and a council member for National City, Gonzalo Quintero, who, as many of you know him as Dr. Q. He did tease a little bit of a special announcement, so I am looking forward to hearing what he has to say about that. But before we get started with the guests, I do have some stuff that I'd like to just clarify before we move on. I mentioned this on Twitter yesterday, but the inclusion committee members who volunteered to appear on this today, along with myself, you'll notice are all white women. And the inclusion committee itself does have members from the Black community, the Latino community, the LGBTQ community, as well as white members, men and women. So everything that we do is decided upon by the entire group. And after discussing together during that virtual meeting last week, discussing how to approach this particular week's live stream, our Black members very understandably decided that they wanted to keep their conversations on their own social media channels, which obviously I and the committee fully support. So while we are talking, please rest assured that everything that we are discussing and are moving forward with as a committee has come from a lot of listening and our desire to use the platform that we've already created to amplify the voices without demanding any additional or performative labor on their behalf. So please just know that we are very aware that this is not just going to be a regular conversation. And so a little context for that. Right now, the Brewers Association estimates that Black-owned breweries make up about 1% of craft breweries in the United States. San Diego currently only has 2, and after Thunderhawk, very sadly, is closing permanently at the end of this week, we'll only have 1. So San Diego's demographics are currently about 6% Black compared to 65% white. By the numbers, having craft beer, which is already obviously very white male dominated, having that breakdown makes sense, but 1 brewery out of over 150 is not so great. And it is great. We do want to recognize that there are plenty of breweries that have Black brewers and employees, but the conversation that we'd like to have is not just supporting the Black-owned breweries, but also taking steps to actively dismantle the barriers in entry in regards to ownership, entrepreneurship, access to capital, and everything like that to help improve those numbers and improve equity in San Diego craft beer whenever we can. So we've all touted local and independent as huge value drivers in craft beer, which are very important. But frankly, in my opinion, it's time that we added equitable to those non-negotiable values when we're making purchasing decisions. So big shout out to places like Pizza Port who, they followed up their message of solidarity with actionable steps that they're taking to implement change, which frankly is what we all need to do. We can't just post a black square and find the Black-owned business, a restaurant near us and order at one time. Like, it's going to take ongoing efforts on all fronts. And so hopefully everybody is committed to doing that. And after this discussion, hopefully you will be able to walk away with some steps to take in your own life. So one other thing that I wanted to shout out to was the Campaign for Real Ale, or CAMRA, out in the UK. They put out a really good statement today about recognizing how we've made the craft beer community in general has made when it comes to like sexism in the community. And while we definitely still have work to do to eradicate sexist and harassing things when it comes to gender equity, it's really important to recognize that intersectional progression is the only way that we're going to move forward. So racial, sexual orientation, gender, and everything like that, they're all tied in with one another. So right now, the current conversation is primarily focused on the Black community, as well it should. But anyway, if you're interested, just look at that CAMRA out of the UK. They put out a good statement, and I think it's something we could all take to heart. So, it's gonna be a lot. The whole live stream is gonna be like this. So buckle up. But I am going to go ahead and get set up and crack my beer. I've got a Weekend Vibes from Coronado. I think we're all gonna need a beer for this conversation. I really recommend everybody grab some. Just a couple little things before I get Paige to come on here. I have been trying to aggregate some job postings that I've seen I'm just checking my list. It looks like Boochcraft is still hiring a brewer. Coronado, Juneshine is looking for somebody for the packaging team and a brewer. Hess in North Park and Alesmith are both looking for beer tenders. And the Pink Boots Society Facebook page, the public Facebook page, does seem to be listing some hiring resources as well. So if you are out of work or you are looking to enter the beer community in San Diego as an employee, please check out some of those things, and good luck. The only other thing that I have is the Black is Beautiful initiative. And so far, a few places in San Diego have committed to participate, and I would love to see a couple more join the cause. That was put together by Weathered Souls Brewing out in San Antonio, and it's going to be a collaborative brew, much like the Resilience IPA, to raise money for the California Campfire. This is to raise money for basically the Black community in craft beer. So go to blackisbeautiful.beer. All the information is there. I think it's something like almost 500 breweries from around the world. And I know that a couple people in San Diego have signed up, Pure Project and Second Chance. Anyway, prioritize those brews and purchasing those to financially support those when those come out. At the end, obviously, this is a Brewers Guild live stream, so please do visit sdbeer.com for additional resources, both after this call about COVID, as well as diversity and inclusion techniques that you can learn about. I will also be listing off some more resources for anti-racism at the very end of this, so please stay tuned, get your notepad ready, and start. If you're not quite sure where to start, hopefully we'll be able to set you on that first step of your journey towards recognizing and dismantling inequality in beer. So, okay, I'm about to bring Paige on. Please know that this is interactive, so if you have a question or a comment or anything like that, please do comment and we will do our best to get to them. I have worked in a couple of the questions that were given to me by the community, by people beforehand, so hopefully we will get to those as well in the context of our conversation. So without further ado, let's bring on the executive director of the Brewers Guild, Paige, and I think that you already requested to be on here, so here you go. We're ready for you. Hello. You're coming. I'm ready. Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Sweating.
What's that?
I said I'm sweating.
Yeah, I'm like, everybody needs a beer for both mental and literally physical reasons right now. Like, it is terrible. But anyway, quick intro, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm the executive director for the San Diego Brewers Guild. Actually been with the guild now for 7 years. So I am the basically the constant between our board. So every year we get new board members and directors, and I try to make sure that things keep moving along, events keep happening, education keeps happening, and communication. So
okay, so I know that I mentioned the inclusion committee, that mission statement earlier, and I think I'll talk a little bit about that with Virginia later. But could you talk a little bit about the mission statement and goal of the San Diego Brewers Guild, kind of as a whole?
Yeah, so our mission is to educate the public of fresh local beer, promoting our interest of the breweries, San Diego County breweries, and then participating in events to raise funds for charities and just promote the education options and opportunities for our members and create a streamlined communication between our members and among our members.
So would you say that the majority of breweries operating in San Diego are part of the guild?
Yes, so we have our membership is all independently owned breweries. So we have over 150 that are members of the guilds. We have so we continue to outreach to those who are not members to show them and just have a conversation with them about the types of things that we work on, projects, initiatives, and also the relationships that we have with like the County of Health, different city councils, our relationship with both the California Craft Brewers Association and the Brewers Association, and making sure that any information coming out of the national or state associations are getting to our breweries so that everyone can make informed business decisions. Because especially during this time with COVID, there's things that are changing constantly day to day. So it's really important that we try to make sure that that open line of communication is there and flowing.
So, what are some of the initiatives that the Guild has done to address COVID specifically? I know that there has been some updates to the website and things like that. Could you talk a little bit about how you've had to pivot to address that?
Yeah, so we as soon as the shelter in place uh, was put into effect, we created a COVID resource page, and I was updating that almost on a daily basis as things changed, and then sending out communication via email to all of our members with resources and any of the health orders to make sure that it was in our business owners and our brewery owners inboxes so that they didn't have to go try to find it out on their own, that they knew that they could rely on their local organization to get that information to them. Something else that we've been really trying to work on locally is with the San Diego County Health Department to really understand what the state guidelines mean and how the breweries can actually implement any of those guidelines in the safe way, because we don't want any of our breweries to be an example of something not being done correctly, especially during this time. And so we really try to make sure that everybody has all of the information. Another thing that we did was we reached out to all of our affiliate members, which are service providers, and a lot of them, came to the aid of our breweries by providing webinars, one-on-one consultation. So we made sure that any affiliate resources or opportunities that they were putting out for businesses during this time, our members knew about that as well.
Okay. So, obviously the pandemic was kind of the first thing that happened, and that now all of these other conversations are starting to happen. And I know that the inclusion committee was started earlier this year, really starting at the end of last year. Could you talk a little bit about what, this is one of, as far as I know, one of the only diversity and inclusion committees on a guild, a regional guild across the country. Could you talk a little bit about the guild's, kind of the when and why they decided to pursue that?
Well, actually, Virginia, who you're going to have on next, was a huge champion when she came on the board. We met, and she's like, "This is something that is really important to me," and expressed that to the rest of the board. And immediately, the rest of the board was like, "Let's do this. This is important for San Diego beer." We are in such a diverse community. Just San Diego County is so diverse that to continue the education opportunities that we provide our members is completely falls in line with our mission statement. And there isn't a lot of resources out there on how to create diversity and inclusion programs within a business, or add those types of practices into their business plan, whether it's in the hiring practices or how they market or who they market to. And so we wanted to really continue to be that education resource. And if breweries are looking for that, we don't want them to have to look too hard. It should be easy for them to implement those types of practices if that's what they're looking for.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I mean, I think obviously we're on the Guild's Instagram right now. So if you're watching this, you know how to find them on social media. But is there that like newsletters or website resources, anything that you want to plug to make it easier for the community at large to keep in tune with what the Guild is doing?
Yeah, so we have, again, our social media channel. We try to put out member communication there, and also just consumer fan communication. On top of that, we have a newsletter that we or an email list that people are able to subscribe to, where we promote events that are happening at our breweries, but also with everything that's going on right now, that I think we're kind of pivoting in what that email will look like going forward. But it's easy to subscribe to that email list through our website, which is sdbeer.com. So you can to register on there to start getting our emails. We have a bunch of COVID resources on there right now, along with those affiliate resources. And we are actively currently working on adding this diversity inclusion, the resources and a toolkit for our members, along with any other initiatives or projects that are ongoing to make sure that our community and our members have a place to go if they're looking for something to support.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being in with us. We'll make sure that Virginia elaborates on that a little bit more, but best of luck to you, and
thank you.
I'll talk to you soon. So
definitely. Cheers.
All right. That was Paige, Executive Director of the San Diego Brewers Guild. And so hopefully that gave everybody a little bit of context for the foundation of the Brewers Guild in general. And now let's whittle it down a little bit more to the Inclusion Committee specifically. So let's go ahead and get Virginia Morrison on here to talk a little bit about that. Hello.
Woo-hoo!
Happy Wednesday. How's it going?
I'm doing good. Look at this. I'm drinking together beer.
There you go. All together. You want to talk a little bit about what that is?
Boom. Boom. So this was an initiative at the outset of COVID-19 to support the beer tenders and other members of our community and hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
So we're supporting locally with the Big Josh Foundation, which helps the hospitality community with healthcare specifically. A lot of people might not have that right now, so we thought that was important.
Awesome. So, I mean, I have a feeling that everybody who's watching this probably knows who you are, but could we just get a little intro in general, just for posterity?
Yeah. So, Virginia Morrison, CEO and one of the co-founders of Second Chance Beer. I also am the vice president of San Diego Brewers Guild, and I head up the Inclusion Committee. I'm a lawyer by trade and still recovering.
Awesome. So, I read the mission statement for the Inclusion Committee earlier, but could you talk a little bit about why you brought that to the Guild and kind of what sparked the creation of this committee just in general?
Yeah, and I have a background in employment law, and so discrimination, hostile environment was kind of where I worked, and that was early on in my career, and then I kind of shifted to employee relations and trying to actually do this work with corporate America about how do you change your practices so that you don't get a suit of any sort. So being inclusive and really not just speaking about diversity, but doing something about it. This has been like a lifelong passion project for me. It's, something that's a value of us at a Second Chance Beer Company. So when I came on to the Brewers Guild, the first time I sat down with Paige, it was, asking me why I wanted to be involved, and I told her that would be an initiative I would like to start.
Mm-hmm. So I know that we've talked as a committee about the short-term, long-term things that we want to implement, and obviously we've had to change a couple of things because of COVID-19. But could you talk a little bit about some of the resources that the Inclusion Committee is committed to providing to both breweries and consumers to help take steps towards achieving, which is sort of, it's a moving target. We'll always be working towards that. But some of the resources that we're planning on putting out?
Yeah, so right now we're most immediately working on a toolkit. So everything from HR, so recruiting, retention, hiring, employment practices that can promote diversity and equity within the workplace. That will also consist of a diversity calendar. So that'll be, set up for the year, reminding people of Black History Month, Pride Month, and, giving breweries ideas about how they can create initiatives around those important holidays and times within our annual histories, if you will. Also just compiling podcasts books, influencers, you know, people to follow, Black members of the community, national, regional, and local, because it's hard sometimes just to know where to start. And there is a plethora of information out there, but I know personally, like, I can sometimes get just paralyzed by being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, for us to be able to give that toolkit to our brewery and affiliate members, and then, you know, on the consumer side, we want to really highlight the kind of the initiatives that our members are taking right now. For example, the Black community, people of color. So Black is beautiful. That would be something we would push out, and are pushing out, did push out today, in fact, to our members to make them aware of that.
Awesome. Well, I'm very much looking forward to drinking that. But, you know, you mentioned not knowing where to start always. And, you know, I think that you personally in Second Chance is a little bit more well-versed, like you've been talking this talk for kind of a long time. And so what advice would you give for breweries who are hesitant to start because, you know, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And I have an opinion about that. And, you know, but, you know, the loss of consumer in any magnitude right now is going to be felt more sharply, you know, as margins are always thin, and they're thinner than ever. So what advice would you give to a brewery or business who is just not quite sure where to start? They're afraid of saying the wrong thing. They're afraid to get their toes wet. What would you say to them?
I would say, first of all, always be authentic. Like, your fans are going to know if what you're saying is not coherent with what they experience when they go in your tasting rooms, what they see in your branding and the beers you put out. And so if you think like, hey, we have a lot of room to improve, start with that. You know, like, hasn't been on our radar. We're new. We're, you know, just cranking out beer. We've always wanted to do this, but we haven't yet. But now we're actually going to look at this. You know, just a simple statement of solidarity, I think, goes a long way to not just the people of color, but your fans and also your employees, investors, if you have them, to really just highlight your values. Certainly there are people who say, like, don't mix politics and beer. You know, that's one valid way to go about it. I won't begrudge anyone who says, I'm just going to stay out of this, but that's not the way that we've chosen to go. And a lot of the local breweries are also, you know, showing their support, for example, by doing Black is Beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. So I think starting by making messages of solidarity and maybe doing a little bit of self-reflection is good. I think that one thing that is going to be important, and you know, I'm not sure if you agree or not, but is consumers and employees being able to hold these businesses accountable to saying, you know, okay, great, you participated in Black is Beautiful, you posted the Black Square, it's 3 months from now what? Like, what have you done? So I think that might be something that we're gonna have to check in with this, you know, both personally and outward facing on an ongoing basis. Like, you know, like we were saying, it's a moving target. You're never going to achieve equity because you can't measure that. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't strive for that.
Yeah, you know, I think sometimes too, as breweries, we do things, but we are too humble to promote them and really add what we're doing.
Right.
I'm guilty of this. Like, we gave over $50,000 last year to charities that give people, Planet or Pups, a second chance. And yeah, like, my team only knows that because I had the idea, at the end of the year I should do that. But we've never advertised that to the public. And just we donated $400 to the NAAC's Legal Defense Fund as a result of our 10% of sales from both tasting rooms last weekend. So that hasn't been put out there yet. It's on our calendar now, but I just wasn't talking about those things because there's about a bazillion other tasks on my plate, and even communicating them to our marketing team just kind of got lost.
Well, I think that you guys are one of the great examples of people who are, you know, willing to be authentic and be open and stand by your value systems. And so, yeah, I commend you, and I appreciate that you had the idea and and drive to put together the inclusion committee. So hopefully we'll, keep working towards positive change.
I have no doubt we will.
All right. Where can everybody find everything Second Chance to keep up with you guys?
secondchancebeer.com and Second Chance Beer across all handles.
All right. Easy peasy. Well, we will talk soon. Thanks so much for checking in with us. Bye-bye. All right. That was Virginia Morrison from Second Chance Beer Company and the committee chair of the Inclusion Committee, as well as the vice president of the San Diego Brewers Guild. So definitely a great person to follow if you are not already. So we are going to wrap things up with Dr. Q, and I think that it is going to be so great because I have not talked to him in a little while. So we're going to see what's happening in National City right now and Chula Vista, South Bay. Hello.
Oh, hey.
How's it going?
Doing well yourself?
I'm good. You look like you're in like a dungeon.
It's actually, we're building out a snug at our Tavern at the Vogue in Chula Vista. We're building out a snug. Are you familiar with what a snug is?
No.
So, I guess it originated in Ireland, and back in the day, when you would go to a bar, the public house, that's where you would do business, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would do a contract, or you would just talk about maybe your dowry for your daughter, or etc. And women were not allowed at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So the snug was a place where you could have an opportunity to have the women while you did business at the bar. Then later it evolved into a place where basically it was the first public office where where you could rent the snug, do some business, and then move on with your day. And then so in COVID world, post-COVID world, that's some outside of the box thinking is aside from outdoor dining and patio dining, what's another opportunity to give people a sense of space, give people a sense of cleanliness. And so what's old is new again, and we're building out a snug. So yeah, we're excited about it.
Great. Well, I look forward to getting snuggly there. But before we get too far into it, could you do a little background intro of who you are and your community as well as the city community?
For sure. So I'm Dr. Gonzalo Quintero, also known as Dr. Q in the beer community. My Instagram handle is @DrQuintero. In the beer community, I'd say over the last 10 years, I've done a lot in the South Bay. Started out actually as a blogger, if you might remember 8-9 years ago, Craft Beer Tasters.
Mm-hmm.
We were pretty prolific at event production and promotion, and as well as early adopters of beer journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And to parlay that into becoming a monthly columnist for West Coaster San Diego. Shout out to Ryan and Mike, where I had the monthly column of the doctor's office. And, that the perspective that I shared was usually, it wasn't just about beer. We're telling the stories of the people behind beer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Along that time, as I was writing for my own blog and for West Coaster, I had an opportunity to take over the beer program at my wife's family's business, which is La Bella Pizza Garden in downtown Chula Vista.
Mm-hmm.
Family owned and operated since 1955, still family owned and operated. I became the GM several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We had an opportunity to take over the beer program, did well with that, and then I parlayed that into becoming the GM. We never closed down. We're still a juggernaut, and we're happy to provide service to the community. During that time, also started a couple other adventures. Right now, where I'm at is 233rd Avenue, Tavern at the Vogue. We started last August, Northern European beer hall, Northern European food menu. Where else can you get Hofbrau Lagersteins right now? And we were just voted best new restaurant in South County in February. Then something happened in March that affected us all. But during that time, we maintained our relevance by providing takeout and delivery. And the last 3 weeks, tomorrow will be 3 weeks that we've had dine-in and patio dining, and we've gotten a lot of support from the community. And it's been great to provide a service in a variety of ways because, a reason why they didn't close down, and by that I mean the government didn't close down breweries, bars, and restaurants, particularly restaurants, is because of our food system. Our food system couldn't handle restaurants being shut down. With social distancing and the limit of service provided by supermarkets, we could not feasibly fed everyone in the county if they had to close down every restaurant.
Yeah.
At that time, like, we remodeled instantly, and we became a market. We were providing grocery, we were providing takeout, curbside pickup, and delivery. And I would say this for a lot of businesses that are re-emerging. For us, we never lost momentum, and we help people create new habits. And now people have been coming in droves because of that momentum and those habits. We became a go-to. So people that are opening and they're seeing that it's slow for them, just realize that we're all creatures of habit. So provide an opportunity for people to create new habits, remind them what made them love you in the first place, and they'll come back.
Definitely. Well, and I think that you know, I mean, Labella in general and the work that you've been doing for, like you said, about the past 10 years, I think that that was absolutely crucial to establishing the foundation for, you know, hashtag South Bay Uprising, and creating that very hyper-local beer there. So, you've also worked on, you know, you're a council member for National City. Could you talk a little bit about how, if at all, like your love of beer has kind of affected your politics, or anything about how you've had to work with, you know, the unique circumstances you find yourself?
Certainly. Yeah, for the last 2 years, I've served as the appointed councilman in National City. And, you know, part of the perspective that I bring, whether it be beer or small business in general, is that, you know, with my educational background, I have a bachelor's and a master's in public administration, a doctorate in education, and I'm a small business owner. So with that wealth of knowledge and the understanding of how they all intersect and synergize, I'm able to chime in and help other people on the dais or other people that are asking questions of emerging businesses. You know, why it's a good idea to provide someone with a liquor license. You know, why is it a good idea to provide someone with just a beer or wine license? Why is it a good idea to limit hours at certain parts of the day? Because I understand the detriment or the benefit to that business. And at the end of the day, you know, especially for small businesses and for tasting rooms, I want to see them succeed, because I know that, you know, like, say in National City, Machete is a great example of how it's a craft beer only establishment, and they have wine and cider as well, but the clientele is such high caliber, right? There's not police calls out there. This isn't a sawdust on the floor type bar.
Right.
The type of clientele that breweries, craft beer establishments, and the like attracts is the type of clientele that's not causing trouble. They have a higher ticket at the end of the day, and you're creating more sales tax for the city. And you're giving people a reason to come to National City. You're giving people a reason to go to Chula Vista. Yes, yeah, you know, you hit the nail on the head. We're hyper local, right, in the South Bay, because it's a food desert to begin with in a lot of ways. And then on the fun end of the spectrum, like, it's a beer desert, right? So, you know, I worked at Toronado, North Park Beer Company, Thorn Brewing, and to be honest, like, I loved working there, but also I wanted to learn from the best, right? I wanted to learn what was so different. How were they able to attract people to their neighborhoods? So for us in the South Bay, yeah, we're providing a service that our people within our zip codes needed, but now we're starting to attract people with all these stellar brands like Three Punk Brewing, Chula Vista Brewing, Bay Bridge Brewing, and all the different restaurants and bars like Bar Sin Nombre, the Manhattan, Third Avenue Ale House, and Tavern at the Vogue. Like, these are, we're creating, as you mentioned, the hashtag South Bay Uprising. We're moving past that.
Yeah.
So the South Bay is a place to be.
And I've said this before on this live stream. I mean, people who have, like, jumped at the chance to talk about what's going on, I think we've had somebody in South Bay almost every single week. I feel like they're a small but vocal and powerful and force in Diego beer as a whole that is, like you said, we've moved past the Bay Uprising. You guys are going to just crush it, dominate, like, sooner than later, I definitely think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think something that people don't understand about the South Bay or San Diego in general, like, you know, so many of us, like, are transplants, but, like, for myself, I was born and raised in National City. I have a real civic pride when it comes to the South Bay. Like, so for those that aren't aware, you know, it's National City, Chula Vista, IB, Nestor, San Ysidro, right? And some would consider Coronado as well, because we all share the bay.
Right.
And so like in terms of the geography of it, right? And then we share the border, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about the mega region of San Diego, Tijuana. Like, why is Tijuana the craft beer capital of Mexico? Well, the proximity to San Diego, right?
Mm-hmm.
Busiest part of entry in the world, the Tijuana border crossing at San Ysidro.
Mm-hmm.
Who services that? The South Bay. What businesses? The people in the South Bay Uprising.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting when you think about like international synergies, when you think about cultural synergies, like it, that's when you're explaining earlier, like why is there so many advocates that are civilians, right? It's because there's a real deep sense of pride, whether it be cultural, whether it be regional. Like there's people have a vested interest outside of their own bottom line to see the scene that they love really grow and proliferate throughout the world, really.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. So I did see that you like an announcement earlier. You have an announcement?
I have an announcement. Yeah.
I'm ready for that announcement.
All right. So, quick story and then the announcement.
Okay.
Hey, Beer Night in San Diego. I love you too. Thank you. Last Tuesday on social media, the blackout, right? When everyone was posting the black square image or posting their support of Black Lives Matters.
Mm-hmm.
No, that evening, that day, on my own personal social media and my business social medias, I was remaining silent because I knew that evening, as a councilman in the city of National City, that we were going to write a joint letter in support of the Black Lives Movement, and to request a change in police reform. So as not to take thunder from that and as not to derail that, I stayed silent until the evening. So that evening, our mayor drafted, along with the city council, a letter in support of Black Lives Matters, a letter in support of police reform. And in fact, the very next day, police reform happened within our city. We were the second city to outlaw the carotid artery chokehold restraint. So right away, we saw police reform, and that's where it begins. There's more work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So shortly after that, on my own social media, I was able to post an image. And the image was of multicolored fists in the air, and it said, "Together we rise."
Mm-hmm.
And, it was just a fitting image where it's going to take all of us, every color of the rainbow, to rise above this, to actually affect change. And it was interesting. Local living legend Cosimo Sorrentino, he saw it and he's like, "Is that a new beer?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Oh, I thought it said 'Together we Weiss.'" And then Larry Moniscanian from Fall Brewing Company, he had hit me up personally and he's like, "Oh, I thought that was a new beer that you're promoting, 'Together we Weiss.'" And then I was like, "Ding, that's a great idea."
I mean, it is now.
Yeah, and then so I hit up Cos. I was like, "You want to do this?" And he's like, "That's a great idea. I have some free time." So Cosimo's in town, right? And then I hit up Stevo Garcia, from Three Punk Ales, who I've collaborated with many times. And for those that don't know, like personally, I've collaborated on over 30 different beers in San Diego County.
Yes.
And like that's been a fun part of being a part of the beer community. And I was like, Steve, this would be a really great opportunity for the Third Avenue Village Association, or at least some of us that are focused on beer and focused on social justice in the South Bay, to come together and do something. So Steve and I, we reached out to the Parker family over at Chula Vista Brewing, Tim Parker, Chula Vista Brewing, Black-owned and operated brewery right here on Third Avenue. We're all literally within 100 yards of each other. And so I'd like to announce that next week at Three Punks Brewing, we're going to brew Together We Weiss, which is going to be a fruited Berliner Weiss. We hope to distribute it amongst all those that collaborate, and we're going to host a town hall via Zoom where people can enjoy the beers either at home or at the different breweries, bars, and restaurants that purchase it and are able to partake in the town hall. I know personally that I hope that the funds go hyper-local, so I want to give funds to the local ACLU, and we're discussing where else those funds can go to.
I love it. See, and this is exactly what we've been talking about, taking actionable steps, putting your money where your mouth is, supporting not just local and independent breweries, but breweries that prioritize equity and making beer fun for everyone, because it won't be fun until it's fun for everyone. So I think I really look forward to that beer coming out. I cannot wait. I think that's phenomenal.
For sure. Yeah, we're still piecing it all together.
Yep.
We're all moving forward with it. So
that's awesome. Well, we definitely look forward to hearing more about that. I thank you so much for tuning in with us and checking in and giving us a little glimpse of what's going on down there. And we'll keep it up.
Thank you. And shout out to Society for canning this agreeable folk. It's fantastic.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we'll check in later and take care.
Cheers.
All right. That was Dr. Q down in South Bay. So, yeah, thank you so much for sticking with us. I really think that we've had some good conversations, and I absolutely cannot wait until that beer comes out. That's going to be super, super awesome. So just to wrap things up, I did promise some more resources at the end, so I'm just going to do a quick little, a couple of announcements and things like that before we get to that. So get your pens and papers ready. I would just want to thank all of the inclusion committee members who didn't join us today. Paige, Virginia, and I are all on the committee, but we also have Brandon Montgomery from Second Chance Beer Company, as well as his Instagram handle, Black Beer Travelers, who put together the Diversify Your Palate global map of diversely owned businesses. John Barberin, owner of Thunderhawk Ailments, Guillermo Lopez from Little Miss Brewing, Sandy Taylor and Andrew Schwartz from Modern Times, Megan Stone from Society, and her handle is Beer Carb, Sue Rigler from Crohn's USA, Theo from The Bountiful Bag, and anybody who has contributed to the mission of building equity in San Diego beer. This is, obviously going to be a huge community effort, and I appreciate everybody who has helped build it to where we are today. So, Chris, I did see your question for books, movies, future events for diversity. I saw that Virginia did mention that we are going to be doing a Tap into Knowledge session, as well as some an inclusive job fair. So the Inclusion Committee is going to be putting out some resources for brewery members, and as well as affiliate members to for actionable steps on how to improve equity in your own businesses. So please do keep an eye out for that. If you aren't already on the newsletter for the Guild, it's sdbeer.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Also, the Brewers Association last year did put out some diversity best practices that were put together by their diversity ambassador, Dr. J. So please do go to brewersassociation.org, and there's a tab just that says diversity that has some stuff already aggregated. That's a really good place to start. It includes marketing tips on how to better represent and normalize diversity in beer, a lot of stuff. So be sure to check that out. Hospitality wise, I really recommend following Ashton Berry. She's the Collectress on Instagram. She's got lots of hospitality specific discussions about restorative justice in that realm. So if you are interested in some pretty high level talks, I recommend checking her out, The Collectress on Instagram. There is also a Patreon by Rachel Cargle, Cargle. That is a template for employees to hold your employer accountable for racial justice. It outlines language and steps for approaching leadership. So search on Patreon, Rachel Cargle, to find that template. Speaking of Dr. J, the diversity ambassador for the Brewers Association, she did put together the website and initiative Craft Beer for All, where she is very, very graciously sharing all of her knowledge and skills and experience for free. So please do check out Craft Beer for All, the website. That's going to be a great place to start as well. And honestly, just start diving into social media and Instagram. Start looking for Black, Brown, LGBTQ, or other voices that speak to you personally. We've mentioned this a couple times, but this is an ongoing process for everybody. So, get ready to work every day and really critically analyze your role in not just building equity, but dismantling oppression and barriers that have kept people out for so long. So, If you have any follow-up questions or would like any more resources, please do DM us here, or my own personal Instagram is The Delighted Bite. I would be happy to put together some more resources or suggestions for people who may not know where to start. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. This is an important discussion that will be ongoing, so be sure to keep in touch with the Brewers Guild to see everything that the Inclusion Committee will be pushing out to help better equity in San Diego, better build equity in San Diego beer in general. So every Wednesday we do this at 3 o'clock. We really, really appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, I am at The Delighted Bite. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm always happy to help. So I'm Beth Demon. Thank you so much. We will catch you next week, and everybody stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.